Hey there, welcome back. It's so nice to see you again in our calm little space of stories and soft dreams. Here we share relaxing tales to slow your heart and ease your mind. If you love peaceful nights and gentle words, don't forget to subscribe and stay close. There's always another story waiting for you. The Slow Tide. Healing Fiction Novel. Chapter 9. Creating Space. The morning after Maya turned down the job, she woke to find something had shifted. Not dramatically. Healing rarely was, but definitively. The anxious knot that had lived in her chest for months, the one that whispered she was wasting time and failing at life, had loosened another degree. She'd made a choice, an active, intentional choice to stay, to keep becoming. And the world hadn't ended. Maya made coffee and carried it to her window. November was deepening toward winter, the mornings darker and colder, but the sky was clear today, stars still visible in the pre-dawn darkness. She watched them fade as light bled across the horizon. Pale pink, then gold, then the pure blue of a day that promised clarity. She'd been in Thornberry Bay for nearly a month now. Her 2-week reservation had become 3, then 4, with Helen never once mentioning checkout dates or future plans. The room had become hers in small ways. Her paintings leaning against the walls, her books stacked on the nightstand, her favorite mug claiming permanent residence on the table. She was building a life here. Not forever, maybe, but for now. And for now was starting to feel like enough. Her phone buzzed, a text from Daniel. Kayaking today? Sunsets at 5:17. Meet at the sanctuary at 4:30. Maya smiled and typed back, I'll be there. Fair warning. I've never done this and will probably tip over. His response came immediately. That's what wetsuits are for. See you then. She set the phone down and turned to the blank canvas she'd prepared last night. For the first time since arriving, she felt ready to paint something specific rather than just letting emotion flow onto the surface. She wanted to capture the tide pools, not photographically, but as she experienced them. The sense of small worlds within worlds, of life persisting in harsh conditions, of beauty in the spaces between land and sea. Maya mixed colors, loaded her brush, and began. Hours passed without her noticing. She painted until her back ached and her eyes burned from concentration, until the canvas was no longer blank but filled with blues and greens and the unexpected warmth of gold where light hit water. It wasn't perfect. The perspective was off in places, and the technical execution would make any trained artist wince. But it was honest. And for the first time, Maya could look at something she'd created and feel pride without the immediate rush of criticism. She'd made this, imperfect human real, that mattered more than technique. A knock pulled her from contemplation. Come in, she called, setting down her brush. Helen entered carrying a plate of sandwiches and fruit. Thought you might have forgotten to eat. You've been up here since 7. She set the plate down, then noticed the painting. Her expression softened. Oh, Maya, it's not very good. It's beautiful. Helen moved closer, studying the canvas. You can feel the life in it. The movement, like the tide pools are breathing. She turned to Maya. This is what you're supposed to be doing. You know that, right? Painting badly in my room. Creating. making things that matter to you, for no reason other than they need to exist. Helen sat in the other chair. That job you turned down. They would have paid you well to make things for other people's purposes. But this, she gestured to the painting. This is yours. Your vision, your truth, your becoming made visible. That's worth more than any salary. Maya felt tears prick her eyes. I don't know how to make a life out of this. I can't sell paintings that aren't technically good. I can't build a career on being honest but unskilled. Who says you need to build a career? Maybe you just need to build a life. The career, if that's what you want, will emerge from the life, not the other way around. Helen picked up half a sandwich and handed it to Maya. Eat. Then tell me what you're afraid of. Maya took a bite, chewing slowly while she organized her thoughts. The sandwich was good. Turkey and avocado on Helen's homemade bread. Simple and satisfying. I'm afraid this isn't sustainable, she admitted finally. That I'm living in a bubble that will eventually pop. That my savings will run out and I'll have to go back to work. And by then I'll be even further behind, less relevant, less valuable. That I'm borrowing time I can't afford. How much time do you have? Realistically? For months, maybe 5 if I'm careful. Then I'll need income. Okay, so you have 4 months to figure out what comes next. That's not nothing. That's a semester of college. Season. Plenty of time to discover what wants to emerge. Helen paused. Unless you're not actually asking about time. Unless you're asking for permission to not have it all figured out yet. Maya laughed despite herself. You're annoyingly perceptive. 40 years of watching people heal will do that. Helen smiled. You have permission, Maya. To not know. To explore. To try things and fail at them. To build a life that doesn't look like anyone else's. You don't need to have the answer right now. You just need to keep asking honest questions. After Helen left, Maya ate slowly, thinking about time. For months had seemed like forever when she first arrived. Desperate and depleted. Now it felt both infinite and insufficient. Long enough to heal more deeply. Not long enough to figure out an entire future. But maybe that was the point. Maybe she didn't need to figure out her entire future. Maybe she just needed to figure out the next right thing. At 4:30, Maya arrived at the marine sanctuary wearing layers and carrying the wetsuit Daniel had told her to bring. He was already there, loading 2 kayaks onto a trailer attached to his truck. Ready for your maiden voyage? He asked, grinning. Ready to make a fool of myself, you mean? That's the spirit. He secured the last kayak and turned to her. Seriously though, it's mellow. The cove is protected, no strong currents, and I'll be right beside you. Worst case you get wet. But you're wearing a wetsuit, so even that's not too bad. They drove to a small launch point south of town, where the beach curved into a sheltered inlet. The water was calm, reflecting the late afternoon sky in shades of pink and gold. 2 other kayaks were already on the water, their occupants paddling slowly along the shoreline. Daniel showed her the basics. How to hold the paddle, how to use her core rather than just her arms, how to use the rudder pedals to steer. Then he helped her into her kayak and pushed her gently into the water. For a terrifying moment, Maya felt completely unstable, certain she'd tip immediately. But as she took her first few strokes, The kayak steadied, finding its balance. She moved forward tentatively, then with more confidence, the paddle dipping into water and pulling her along. "You're doing great," Daniel called from his own kayak, gliding up beside her. "Natural. Just keep your strokes even and enjoy the ride." They paddled along the coastline, Daniel pointing out features of the shore. Tide pools visible from the water, rock formations that housed seal colonies, kelp beds that provided habitat for countless species. Maya tried to absorb the information, but mostly she focused on the sensation of moving through water, powered by her own body, surrounded by beauty that required nothing from her except presence. The sun descended toward the horizon, painting everything in warm light. The water turned from blue to gold to something between copper and rose. Maya stopped paddling and just floated, her kayak drifting gently, the paddle resting across her lap. "This is incredible," she breathed. Daniel pulled his kayak alongside hers. "First time is always special. There's something about being on the water at sunset. Like the world is showing off just for you." They drifted in comfortable silence, watching the sun sink lower. Other kayakers passed, voices soft across the water. A seal surfaced nearby, regarded them with curious eyes, then disappeared beneath the surface. "Can I tell you something?" Maya said suddenly. "Always. I'm happy. Right now, in this moment, I'm actually happy. Not accomplished happy or validated happy or any of the versions of happiness I used to chase. Just content, present, alive." She looked at him. "I haven't felt this in years. Maybe ever." Daniel's expression was warm. "That's worth everything, Maya. That feeling right there. Hold on to it. Remember it. Because on the hard days, and there will be hard days, you'll need to remember that this is possible. That you're capable of feeling this way. How do I make it last? You don't. That's the thing about happiness. It's not a destination you reach and then stay at forever. It's moments. Brief, perfect moments that you collect like shells on a beach. And then you string them together until you have days, weeks, months where the good moments outnumber the hard ones." He dipped his paddle, turning his kayak to face the sunset fully. "You're not trying to be happy all the time. You're just trying to increase the ratio." Maya thought about her months of anxiety and depression, when happiness had felt impossible, unreachable, something other people experienced but she couldn't access. And here she was, floating in a kayak at sunset, feeling joy so pure it made her chest ache. "Thank you," she said, "for this. For believing I could do it when I didn't believe in myself. You did the work. I just provided the kayak." Daniel smiled. "Though I'm glad I could be here for it. For your first time feeling happy. That's a gift." They paddled back as the sun finally set, the sky deepening to purple and then dark blue. Stars began to emerge, and the water turned black and mysterious. Maya's arms burned from the unaccustomed exercise, but she felt strong, capable, alive in her body in a way she hadn't in years. As they loaded the kayaks back onto the trailer, Daniel said, "There's a potluck at the community center tomorrow night. Monthly thing, everyone brings something. We eat too much, play board games or cards, generally hang out. You should come. I don't really know many people." Sienna waved from across the room, her bright yellow sweater visible from anywhere. Daniel was there too, talking with Tom near the drinks table. Ruth carried in an enormous pie, and Marcus and Chen were setting up chairs. Maya felt the familiar urge to retreat, but Helen's hand on her lower back, gentle grounding, kept her moving forward. "Maya!" Sienna bounded over, pulling her into a hug. "You came. I wasn't sure you would. Come on, let me introduce you to people properly. Not just bonfire-style names you'll forget immediately." For the next hour, Maya met the residents of Thornberry Bay. She met Jessie, the marine biologist with kind eyes and an extensive tattoo collection. Patrick, the musician who'd played at the bonfire, and his wife Olivia, a ceramicist who worked from a studio behind their house. She met the librarian, the retired postmaster, the woman who ran the community garden, the fisherman who supplied the kettle with fresh catch. Each introduction was brief but genuine. No one asked what she did for a living or why she was here. They just welcomed her, invited her to sit, asked if she wanted wine or beer or soda. When everyone finally settled at the tables, the volume of conversation was tremendous. Overlapping stories, laughter, good-natured arguments about everything from the best way to make cornbread to whether the town should invest in new playground equipment. Maya sat between Sienna and Daniel, her plate full of food she hadn't chosen so much as accepted as it was passed to her. Everything was homemade, generous, offered without expectation of reciprocity. This was community, not networking, not social climbing, just people sharing food and time because they wanted to. "So Maya," Chen said from across the table, "Helen mentioned you're a painter now?" "I wouldn't say painter. More like someone who puts paint on canvas and hopes for the best." "That's literally what a painter is," Sienna interjected. "She's being modest. She's actually quite good. Emotional, honest work." "I'd love to see it sometime," Olivia said. "I'm always interested in what other artists are creating, especially the messy, experimental stuff." "There's going to be a small art show at the library in December," the librarian, whose name was Margaret, added. "Just local artists, very casual. You should submit something." "Oh, I don't think. Perfect time to change that. Besides, you know me and Sienna and Helen. And Tom will be there, and Ruth, and most of the bonfire crowd. It's casual. No pressure to be impressive or interesting. Just food and company." Maya hesitated. The old anxiety rose. What if she didn't fit in? What if people didn't like her? What if she said the wrong thing? But she recognized it now. Recognized it as fear dressed up as self-protection. "Okay," she said. "I'll come. What should I bring?" "Whatever you want. Or nothing." People are flexible. This isn't San Francisco. Nobody's judging your contribution or keeping score. As they drove back to town, Maya watched the dark coastline roll past and thought about community. In the city, she'd had hundreds of contacts, dozens of professional relationships, a full social calendar. But how many of those people had actually known her? How many would have supported her choosing healing over achievement? Here, in this tiny dying town, she had maybe 10 people she could call friends. But they were real friends. People who saw her clearly and liked what they saw. People who celebrated her growth instead of her accomplishments. That mattered more than she'd ever imagined it could. The next evening, Maya stood in Helen's kitchen, helping make a massive bowl of pasta salad for the potluck. She chopped vegetables while Helen cooked pasta and mixed dressing, their movements synchronized by weeks of similar collaborations. Nervous? Helen asked. A little. Group social situations aren't really my thing. They're not most people's thing. But Thornberry Bay potlucks are different. Less performance, more actual connection. Helen drained the pasta and ran cold water over it. Just be yourself. That's all anyone expects. What if myself isn't interesting enough? Then you'll fit right in. We're a town of people who chose ordinary over extraordinary. People who decided that being content was more important than being impressive. Helen added the pasta to the vegetables Maya had chopped. You'll see. It's nice. The community center was a squat building near the post office, its main room filled with folding tables arranged in a large square. When Maya and Helen arrived, arms full of food, the space was already half full of people arranging dishes, laughing, greeting each other with the easy familiarity of long friendship. You should, Daniel said quietly. Your work deserves to be seen. Maya felt heat rise to her cheeks. The old perfectionism rose too. Her work wasn't good enough, wasn't polished enough, wasn't ready. But underneath that, a small voice whispered, "What if it is ready? What if good enough is actually good enough?" "Maybe," she hedged. "I'll think about it." The conversation moved on, flowing naturally from topic to topic. Maya mostly listened, absorbing the rhythms of community, the way people checked in on each other, offered help before it was asked for, celebrated small victories and supported through small defeats. This was what she'd been missing in her old life. This sense of being seen and valued not for what she produced but for who she was. These people didn't know about her career, her accomplishments, her professional reputation. They just knew Maya, the woman staying at Helen's Inn, learning to paint, figuring out her life. And they liked her anyway. After dinner, tables were pushed aside and board games emerged. Maya found herself playing Scrabble with Tom, Jesse, and Patrick, laughing at ridiculous word combinations and arguments over whether certain spellings were legitimate. "You're good at this," Tom observed as Maya placed a triple-word score. "I used to play with my dad every Sunday when I was a kid, before he got too busy with work, and I got too busy with school, and we forgot how to just be together." The memory surfaced unexpectedly, carrying both sweetness and sorrow. "That happens," Tom said gently. "We forget that the simple things matter most. That playing games and sharing meals and just being present, that's what life actually is. The rest is just noise." The evening wound down slowly. People drifted away in small groups, calling goodbyes, making plans for coffee or walks or help with various projects. Maya helped clean up, washing dishes alongside Ruth while the last stragglers packed up leftovers. "You fit well here," Ruth said, handing Maya a plate to dry. "I can always tell who belongs and who's just passing through. You're a belanger. I've only been here a month. Doesn't matter. Some people belong to a place from the moment they arrive. Others live somewhere 30 years and never quite fit." Ruth smiled. "You're home, honey. You just haven't fully admitted it yet." Walking back to the inn with Helen and Daniel, Maya felt something settle in her chest. Not answers, not certainty about the future. Just a deep, quiet knowing that she was exactly where she needed to be. "Thank you," she said to both of them, "for inviting me, for making space for me in your community. You made space for yourself, Helen corrected. You showed up. You were open. You let people see you. That's all community requires. Willingness to be present and real. At the inn, Maya hugged them both goodnight and climbed the stairs to her room. The paintings leaning against her walls greeted her like old friends. The ocean whispered beyond the window. The room smelled like lavender and possibility. She changed into pajamas, washed her face, and sat at her table with a fresh canvas. Her hands moved without planning, mixing colors, making marks, letting something emerge from the evening's warmth and connection. She painted late into the night, and when she finally stopped, the canvas showed something new. Not tide pools or ocean or abstract emotion, but people, gathered around a table, sharing food. Their faces rendered loosely but with love. Community. Connection. Maya looked at it and felt tears slide down her cheeks. Happy tears. Grateful tears. The tears of someone who'd been lost and was slowly, imperfectly, finding her way back to herself. She was becoming. Still uncertain, still scared, still imperfect. But belonging somewhere. Mattering to people. Building a life that felt real instead of impressive. And tomorrow, she'd wake up and choose it again. And the day after that. And slowly, those days would add up to something beautiful. Something worth staying for. Something finally truly like home.